welcome to the Onside Kick. Ricky Widmer here along with Mark Weber.
How's it going, guys?
And for the X amount of weeks in a row, Dave Oster is not here yet again. He has a good reason, though, this week.
Congratulations, Dave. Congratulations on the baby.
He had a family baby shower to go to, and this is going to be, I just want to warn everybody now, this is going to be an interesting podcast because right now we are recording the podcast at about 6 o'clock on Saturday, and I have been up for a constant 24 hours.
Yeah, we've been, I guess we haven't been trying that hard, but we've been kind of sort of trying to start this podcast for about 3 hours now.
Yeah, we'll see how this one goes.
Ricky's not having it.
Bear with us. I've been up for 24 hours. I'm a little bit sleep deprived, so maybe my hatred for the Miami Heat might come out a little stronger than it really is because I really need the sweet nectar known as sleep. But the first thing we're going to talk about, we'll get right into it, the NBA Finals. The Miami Heat, they win their second in a row. LeBron James, Finals MVP, yada, yada, yada. They won the championship, Mark, and right away, what did I do? I turned the TV off. I'm like, I'm not even going to watch the celebration because I hate the Miami Heat.
I can one-up you on that one. I didn't watch the final shots of the game because there was like 20 seconds left, and I said, you know what? I'm good. I know they're going to win. In fact, I knew the Miami Heat were going to win after the last NBA Finals. And I know I predicted the Spurs, but shut up. I knew they were going to win after the last NBA Finals. I was telling Ricky about this before the podcast. A different show I was on before, after we did our NBA Finals thing, everybody unanimously agreed Miami Heat would win the following year as well. It's just sad, that you like that. It's that obvious.
Well, I mean, the Spurs. I just want to say the Spurs should have won. I'm not making any.
They put up a good fight.
I'm not making any excuses for the Spurs. You have guys like Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker.
Doesn't count.
And I mean, you couldn't get they should have gotten the job done. Game 6 was their Game 7. Once they lost Game 6, I was hoping and praying that they would finish out in Game 7 because of the whole series has been trade with the win-losses. But I mean, there was a part of me that knew after Game 6 that Game 7 would probably go the Miami Heat's way.
And I said it doesn't matter before because really, especially in Game 7, who showed up? Duncan showed up. Tony Parker, yeah, he was kind of there, but he was playing hurt. Manu Ginobili, I'm just going to throw this ball out of bounds. Or I'm just going to do idiotic plays that, you see kids in college doing.
Well, I'm going to throw out one. I'm going to try to one-up you. It has nothing to do with the quote-unquote big three for the Spurs. Game 6 and Game 7 comes down to the D-leaguer that everyone was praising after his 27-point game and his 24-point game. I'm talking about Danny Green. And Danny Green he had 27 points in Game 3. Oh, man, him and Neil go bonkers from beyond the arc. And then you have Game 5. He has 24 points. He hits 6 out of 10 three-pointers. But then after that, Game 6, he plays 41 minutes, goes 1 of 7 from the field, 1 of 5 from beyond the arc, 3 points. Game 7, 36 minutes, 1 of 12 from the field. Half of those were three-pointers. He finished with 5 points because he made 2 free throws.
And Ricky, I always say that I don't like streaks because what happens with streaks, they end. And this wasn't really a streak, but you got a D-leaguer who comes up, blows everybody away, lights out game, and then does well again the following game. And then what happens? Disappears. Not only does he disappear, but he hurt his team so badly that he's sitting there every time. I'm going to just go for the three. Why? Because I can shoot threes. No, you can't shoot threes. You had 2 hot nights. You had 2 hot nights where the Miami Heat didn't know what to do with you, and now, nothing. You saw shot after shot by Green that just half of them weren't even close. They were bad. You showed why you were in the D-League.
And we're talking about a player who averaged about 10.5 points per game this season. And I mean, did I bite the Danny Green? I'm going to say the Danny Green bullet. Yes. When he had his 27, his 24-point game, I was like, wow, this is an amazing performance. Like, the Heat need to stop this. The Spurs can basically ride this hot three-point shooting to an NBA Finals if just either Parker, Duncan, Ginobili, if one of them gets it done, just having Green there helps them win a championship. But when it counted, he just went away. And you see on ESPN, the great story. He was cut by this team, and he went to the D-League, and now he's back to the finals. And it's like, but he was a D-Leaguer.
Not only was he a D-Leaguer and was back to the finals, but he hurt his team badly. And it's not all his fault.
1 for 12 from the field, and he played 36
really
minutes?
That's what I want to get to. It's not all his fault because Popovich, the incredible coach that he is, coached like in this series. He did. He made so many mistakes. Leaving Green
I wouldn't say in the series. I would just say in Game 6 and Game 7.
Oh, I'll give you that one. He did fine in the beginning, and then it got really bad. But leaving Green in just because he got 27 one night. You know, like that is the rationale. The rationale is he got really hot one night and was pretty hot the next night. And now we're just going to leave him in the NBA Finals. The most important game of the series, obviously, Games 6 and 7. And you're just going to leave him in while he's floundering around. Horrible coaching. Horrible coaching. It just, I don't know. To see Greg Popovich make those mistakes was incredible.
Well, and I mean, it comes down to also, you look at the defensive matchups that the Spurs put on LeBron James, and they would have Boris Diaw, Kawhi Leonard, and early on in the series, I would say it was working, but when you got, I mean, am I not a LeBron James fan? No, I can't stand LeBron James. It's one of those things where I'm behind the city of Cleveland. You betrayed the city that put all their trust and their faith in you. You stabbed them in the back, and you win 2 championships with someone else in their own conference. So I don't like LeBron James. But I will say, Game 6, Game 7, 32 points, 37 points. He also had 12 rebounds in Game 7. And the one thing LeBron did not do in Game 7 that he did in Game 6 was assist. He only had 4 assists in Game 7 compared to 11 and 6.
I think in Game 7, LeBron had finally realized this is 110% on me.
Well, LeBron knew that if the Heat lost this finals, would we be talking about D. Wade's legacy, Chris Bosh's legacy, or would we be talking about LBJ's legacy?
Yeah, exactly. And, you can see the headlines right now of, the failed king, LeBron James loses. Not the Heat, LeBron James loses.
Well, I think the only thing that would pull Wade and Bosh into it is people would say, oh, you bring this quote-unquote super team together and they go to, what was it, 4 NBA Finals? Or 3. They had the Mavericks, the Thunder, and now the Spurs, and you only won one of them? Yeah. That's what people would be saying.
And I mean, and it's funny too because you have the 2 out of 3, and people will say it was a success. The big 3 in Miami, in South Beach, it was a success. However, if it was just 1 for 3, obviously everyone would be saying failure. It doesn't work. You can't do it. You can't just buy it. And it's unfortunate, I think, because I think I made my stance clear on what I think about money in sports.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like it. And I don't like teams that just buy their championships. And it doesn't work in a lot of situations, and unfortunately for the NBA. And I think there's outside factors as well, not to be a conspiracy theorist, but there's outside factors that helped the Heat. And it's not good for a sport when money buys championships.
Well, and I mean, I'm going to bring this up because, I mean, it really got me thinking when I heard this when I was watching Game 6. one of the announcers, I can't remember which one it was, it might have been Van Gundy, but I'm not sure, said that this finals comes down to the two polar opposites. On one hand, you have the Spurs, where they're built on building people from the draft, getting Euro players, working players into a system and making them develop. Tim Duncan, a draft pick by the Spurs. Tony Parker, a Euro player. Manu Ginobili, another Euro player. And then on the other side, you have the Miami Heat, where they were kind of built on collusion. They were built the way where they were built on money. They weren't built the traditional way that everyone else is used to. You're always told that how do you build a team? You build it through the draft, and you build it through young players. That's not how the Heat were built.
And it's unfortunate because you see something like that, and we see it in baseball, and that's why the Yankees are the evil empire. Nobody, I mean, people like the Yankees, but nobody likes the Yankees because the Yankees ruin baseball with their money, and they kill the small team, you know, like that's the argument that we always see. In basketball, okay, cool, no problem. Here you go, Miami. You know, like, why is nobody complaining that
because at least there's a salary cap in basketball.
Yeah, there is, but really, was there a salary cap when you have veteran players taking as little amount of money as possible just for the opportunity to play with LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh? It's unfortunate because you're letting money, and there's nothing that you can do. What can Dave Stern do about it? Nothing. He can't do anything about it, and he doesn't want to do anything about it because LeBron James is so marketable, has been so marketable, even in Cleveland, of all places in the world. He was marketable there. He can be marketable anywhere. And when you combine him with Dwayne Wade, already loved in the league, Chris Bosh, who cares? But you combine these three guys, make the super team. You got Michael Jordan or Kobe. Take your pick on your comparison. It's ultimate marketing. It is, and it's unfortunate, like I said, but there's nothing there to really stop it.
See, and you kind of brought up something that, I mean, I saw it today on Fansided.com's Facebook page, and they basically posted a graphic that showed Kobe's playoff and regular season stats and LeBron's regular season and playoff stats at the age of 28. And they basically left it up to all the fans out there to pick which side you're on. And to me, I think these comparisons are useless. I think they're pointless because the one thing you got to think, especially, I'll just say this about the LeBron James Kobe comparison because I brought it up. Did LeBron James start as a rookie right out of high school?
Yeah, he certainly did.
Did Kobe start right out of high school?
He was in the NBA.
He didn't
but he
start,
wasn't
though.
starting.
He
was sitting some bench.
He didn't get his first full season until the 98-99 season, which was a 50-game lockout season. That was the first time he got a full season of starts. So LeBron James already had 2 seasons on him. Then, on top of that...
And to be fair, LeBron does have a lockout season as well.
Well, I'm not saying that, but LeBron didn't have to deal with what Kobe had to deal with. Kobe came into the league in 1996. What was happening at that time? Who was winning his second three-peat?
Mr. Shaq.
No. Mr. Jordan. 96, 97, 98.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the fact that he's dealing with Shaq. That's what I'm on.
Kobe came into the league during Michael's three-peat, his second one.
See, that's not a big deal to me. Having Michael Jordan in the league as well, and that's why I didn't even think about it. I didn't pay attention to what you're saying. But having Kobe on a team with Shaq, you got to deal with Shaq on your team, the biggest guy out there playing. He's a big monster, and when I say big, I don't mean tall as well. He's a tall guy, but he's a big guy.
There's a reason why he earned the nickname the Man of Steel.
Exactly. He can take down anybody. He can dunk on anybody. Nobody's going to stop Shaq. And you're going into that situation, you think Shaq's there going, okay, Kobe, here's the ball.
No, when Kobe and Shaq played together, I want to say Shaq thought of Kobe as the punk-ass kid, where it was like, you know what, I'm the veteran, learn from me, and that's why we had the whole kind of Shaq-Kobe demolishing, where Shaq eventually left and it became Kobe's team because Kobe wanted that, like, hey, you know what? Why can't it be my team? Treat me like, kind of like when you have a kid and they want to be treated like an adult when they're ready to be treated like an adult. And they're like, you know what? I'm mad at you because you don't treat me like an adult. One of those things. Kobe was the little kid. Shaq was the adult. Kobe just wanted to be treated equally.
Well, I wouldn't say equally. He wanted the team.
Yeah,
he said, give me the keys to the car.
True.
And Shaq wasn't going to have it. Shaq was done with it. But, I mean, to go in a situation, LeBron James didn't have to compete with Shaq. And, yeah, LeBron James technically played with Shaq. But let's compare Lakers Shaq to Cleveland Cavaliers Shaq. In fact, when Ricky mentioned that Shaq was on the Cleveland Cavaliers, I said, what? I didn't even remember he was on the Cavaliers because who cares about him being on the Cavaliers? It's just ridiculous. The comparisons are dumb. Compare him to Michael. Compare him to Kobe. Why? What is the point? Not only was the game a completely different game back then, but it's pointless. It's pointless to compare players in completely different situations, playing completely different teams with completely different players. Of course the stats are going to be different. Of course someone might have better stats because the NBA now is different than the NBA at 28-year-old Kobe. It's a completely different game. It's a completely different set of teams and everything. It's just, you can't compare it.
See, and the only comparison that I believe you can make between LeBron and Jordan is at the age of 28, LeBron and Jordan both won championships at 27 and 28. That's it. Other than that, you can debate all you want. In my opinion, Jordan is the far better player. Yes, has LeBron's career not played out fully? We have to wait to see what happens in his career. But I mean, a few points that I look at so far in his career to kind of knock him down a peg when it comes to Jordan. First off, when Jordan went to a finals, did he lose? No. How many times did LeBron lose? Twice. And that was once with this quote-unquote big three in their, I'm going to call it their inception year, the homecoming, the one where it was like, this is our first year, we're making a stand. Second off, how many Game 7s in the NBA Finals did Michael Jordan play in?
I believe that would be a big fat 0.
0. It's like one of the memes I saw online. It was a picture of Jordan doing the famous shrug from the 1992 Finals, and it said, Game 7? I thought Finals only go to 6.
I mean, the comparisons are done. And I know it's sports. We have to compare everyone and everything to everyone and everything else, basically. You can't not. It's what people get paid to do. But it's just, I don't know. It's annoying. It's frustrating. Can we let LeBron James be his own player? Because I'll say, and I think everybody will agree, part of the animosity against LeBron James is all the comparisons. Chicago wouldn't hate LeBron James as much as they do if he wasn't constantly compared to Michael Jordan.
I wouldn't say that it's him being compared to Michael Jordan. I'm saying also one of the things I left out is, yes, Jordan and LeBron both won their first 2 championships at 27-28. But when Jordan played, I'm counting here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons before that first championship, did Jordan ever think to himself and act on it, you know what, maybe Chicago's not the right fit. Maybe I should leave town. The answer to that question is a big fat no. Jordan stuck it out because back then, back in that era, and I'm not even talking about Michael Jordan, I'm talking before that. You can even go Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. None of those players. Larry Bird would never had left the Celtics to sign with the Lakers. Magic Johnson would have never left the Lakers to sign with the Celtics to play with Larry Bird. It just wouldn't have happened back then.
And you have that kind of rivalry that's built up like that. What are some player rivalries? I mean,
there's no rivalries anymore.
I mean, you have the big threes, and ESPN's talking about the big three of Miami versus the big three of San Antonio. Which one's better? Why aren't we talking about LeBron James versus Tim Duncan? LeBron James versus Tony Parker? Where are these comparisons? I want to see two all-stars go at each other. I don't want to see, here's some money over here, here's some three good players over there. Let's see who's going to, get it done. No, I want to see two guys going at each other. I want to see the team on somebody's shoulder. LeBron James put the team on his shoulder. No doubt about it.
He put the team on his back, dude. Yeah, he did.
But I don't know. Why? Where is that comparison? When do you see player versus player anymore?
And it's also, of course, for us, we're going to speak, I'm going to say from the heart, because, we grew up during the first three-peat for the Bulls. I was a little young. I was 1, 2, and 3 when it happened. But I know for the second three-peat, there was just this thing about, and I'm just going to talk about Michael Jordan's career. Just look at Michael. You had so many rivalries just with Michael before he won the championships with Larry Bird and the Celtics, dropping 60-plus points on the Celtics in the playoffs. Then you have the 91 finals. Michael versus Magic. Then in the 92 finals, Michael versus the Trailblazers with Clyde the Glide Drexler. 93, Jordan versus Barkley, where Barkley comes out and says basically, God wants us to win this championship, and the Bulls win. I want to say in 6 games. Then you have the 2 baseball years for Jordan, comes back. You have Jordan, Pippen, Rodman against the Seattle Supersonics, who had Gary Payton and Shawn Kemp. Then, 97, 98, you had the Bulls. You had Pippen, Jordan, Rodman against Stockton, Malone, and Russell. 2 back-to-back years of that.
And here's an issue right now. Just hearing all those players mentioned, 10, 15 years down the line, are there going to be people going, oh man, LeBron James, D. Wade, and Chris Bosh going up against Dirk Nowitzki?
No.
Are they going to say going against Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant and Harden?
There's all that. If Harden was still on the Thunder and the Thunder and the Heat played back-to-back finals versus each other, that is the only time I would ever hear someone say this big three versus that big three.
I just don't think, you talk about, and maybe it's just because we're of Chicago.
And of the 90s Bulls.
Yeah.
Another one I left out, it wasn't a finals matchup, but what about the ones you get in the Eastern Conference? Jordan versus Ewing. Jordan versus Miller. Jordan versus the bad boy Pistons.
I just think that an issue here is we see those names. We remember those great players. Now, LeBron James, he's playing great players, no doubt. And it's not just LeBron James. It's the Miami Heat as a whole. But who are those big guys he's going against? Nobody. Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, they're great players. Both probably Hall of Fame players. But are anyone going to really, is anyone going to look back and think, man, remember when LeBron James went up against Tony Parker and he went up against Tim Duncan?
No.
Exactly. That's a thing now. You're comparing these players. You want to compare players, but who else is in the league right now? That's what I want to say. Yeah, Kobe's there. We're all going to remember Kobe. Derrick Rose, we hope for, that everyone's going to remember Derrick Rose. But it doesn't have that same star quality thing, and that is why the NBA loves LeBron James, because he was the first kind of star, because people were kind of sick of Kobe, and LeBron James comes in here and it's the second coming again, since, Kobe was the second coming before Michael.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm looking back at some past NBA finals, and I mean, the last time I really saw a rivalry, you could say the 2005 finals. You had the Pistons, who had Billups, Wallace, Prince. You would put them up against the Spurs, who, Mano, Parker, Duncan, a little bit younger in their game. 94, those same Pistons going up against Kobe and the Lakers. I guess you could do that. But then before that, I mean, Spurs Nets, the kind of debacle of Jason Kidd actually getting the Nets to the finals. I mean, Lakers Nets the year before that, not really a big rivalry there. I mean, 2001's the only time I see a marquee matchup of Shaq and Kobe versus AI.
I just kind of wish, for the sake of the NBA, that they could, and media outlets, like ESPN and everything, that they could stop just relying on comparing LeBron James to the past and focus on LeBron James versus present players and present teams who are rivals to him.
I think it's because, and I'm going to go on a whim and say this, nobody in the NBA right now.
No, you're right. No one's close to LeBron James.
Nobody's close to LeBron.
LeBron is miles ahead of anybody else.
I'll say this because I kind of wanted. I thought through my statement for a second. Nobody, one-on-one, nobody is as good as LeBron right now in the current NBA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But there are teams. I feel like that LeBron, if he had to go up against a team and he didn't have guys to help him out,
well, we've already seen it.
Yeah.
We've seen it with Cleveland. That's why he left.
You saw it with Cleveland, but I mean, I'm saying, like, look at a team that I think, once their star comes back, I would not be surprised if they make a finals push next year. And that's the Chicago Bulls.
I just think that the Bulls, and we're going to get to it later, talking about the draft a little bit, but the Bulls
are almost there.
They need that shooting guard. They need that guy who can go there and take the load off of Derek.
I mean, the one thing I think of, and I thought about it throughout the Eastern Conference Finals, throughout the NBA Finals, I mean, the Miami Heat. Think about that game one against the Bulls. That game one where the Bulls just came out without Derrick Rose and just spanked LeBron James all over the floor.
Miami's not good in game ones. They never are. They don't. Miami, for some reason, is a team that likes to get beat.
Unless Roy Hibbert's not on the floor.
That's very true. If you don't put Roy Hibbert out there, the Miami Heat can win a game. But it's just like Miami is that team that, I don't know what it is, but they need to be reminded all the time of, oh, other teams can win games too. Like it's a weird thing where they kind of have, I don't know if they're cocky or they think that they're, they have everything kind of entitled to them. And I'm not saying that they do, but they have this thing where they need to lose a game to be reminded of, oh, that's right, we gotta start playing again, guys.
Plus, and I think it comes down to this, I'm going to bring this up because I saw this in the NBA Finals where the Miami Heat won this year's NBA Finals, and they are the two-time defending champions now because of the fact that LeBron James basically put on beast mode for Game 6 and Game 7 and put the team on his back. But there's a part of me that thinks that if the Heat had, and I'm not saying Eric Spoelstra's a bad coach, I'm just saying if the Heat had maybe a little bit better of a coach that could get LeBron to play at that potential from the start and not, oh, it's Game 6, Game 7, looks like we got to turn it up. It's like I said last week. The Heat reminded me of myself in high school where, oh, I'm assigned this research paper. Oh, I got this test in 2 weeks. I don't have to study right now. Then the night before, it's like, oh, I got to cram. That's what the Miami Heat were in this finals. Oh, it's game 1, game 2. I don't have to win that. Oh, game 3? Nah, not a problem. Oh, wait, game 6, game 7? Oh, I got to turn it up.
I'm a little confused because Van Gundy informed me that Spoelstra was a great coach who was going to the Hall of Fame. So I don't know why you would say he's not a good coach.
Do you really believe Van Gundy? Either of them,
No,
Stan
I
or
can't
Jeff?
stand either Van Gundy. I don't like the Van Gundys.
There's a reason why Jeff isn't announcing, and there's another reason why Stan isn't an NBA coach anymore.
And I
Because he
think
can't get along with his superstars.
I think it's funny when Van Gundy's out there just praising the Heat and talking about how good of a coach Spoelstra is. He's such a good coach. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Van Gundy claimed that Spoelstra was going to the Hall of Fame mid-series. This was mid-series, and that's
Really?
just the first time I heard it.
Really? Coach Pop is going to be in the Hall of Fame way
We're
before
not talking about
Spoelstra.
Coach Pop. We're talking about Coach Spo. That's what we're talking about. We're
No.
talking about Spo, coach of LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, mostly Dwayne Wade and LeBron James. Because we don't like Chris Bosh.
Let me put it this way, and I know that you've been harping on the let's not do comparisons, but we pretty much have been doing comparisons the whole podcast so far, so I'm going to throw one more out there. When people think of Phil Jackson, do they think of Phil Jackson, or do they think of, oh, Phil Jackson, Michael Jordan?
I'm pretty sure they're thinking, where do you put those other rings?
Yeah, where do you put those 11 rings? And I mean, with Spoelstra, he's not a terrible coach. I want to give him some credit.
How can you be a bad coach when you have Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh on the same
I want to
team?
give him some credit because he does have the moldings of a decent NBA coach. But I feel like his 2 titles, his 2 rings, no one's going to be like, oh, Eric Spoelstra, his 2 rings. It's always going to be LeBron James rings.
Well, that's the thing. Put Eric Spoelstra on any other NBA team, and he will not win a championship. Guarantee it, he won't. What other team could he do? And want to know why? Because he had this team handed to him on a silver platter, and it wasn't even his team when it started. He got the job because it wasn't working. And they basically, I mean, not to be conspiracy theorists here, but they basically picked a guy that they knew LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh could work with.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, of course, there's no comparison, but I mean, no one's ever going to, I think the only reason Phil Jackson is what he is because not only did he win multiple championships with the Bulls, he won multiple championships with the Lakers. He proved that, hey, I can work with anybody.
And let's put Eric Spoelstra on the Timberwolves. Let's put him on the Timberwolves and say, have fun, buddy. Coach this team up.
See, but I agree with you. He wouldn't win the NBA Finals, but I like the Timberwolves. Ricky Rubio, Kevin Love.
Well, he's got good players in Minnesota to work with then. Work them up and build them into a championship caliber team.
See, I don't know. I mean, of my coaches right now in the NBA, if I was forming the ultimate coaching roster of coaches that were just in the NBA now, just current NBA head coaches, I'll take 5. My overall head coach would be Coach Pop. My head assistant, my number 2 guy, would be Coach Thibodeau. Then I would take Frank Vogel, Lionel Hollins, and Doc Rivers.
I want Carlisle on that. Me personally. I like Carlisle.
You like Rick Carlisle?
I do. The man knows how to win.
Even though...
Not championships, but he knows how to win games.
Wait. They know how to win, but they had the worst record in franchise history?
First time ever for him. First time ever. He needs a change of scenery, I think, honestly. I think Carlisle needs a change of scenery.
See, I don't know. I feel like Spoelstra to me. I mean, yet again, if Dave was here, he'd be telling us we're wrong because I'm just going to throw his opinion out there. His top 3, if I remember right, because he told me this last night over dinner, he'd have Coach Pop first, Thibodeau second, and then Eric Spoelstra as third. in the NBA.
I just don't understand how anybody would take Spoelstra and think that Spoelstra is actually...
Or no, he said Doc Rivers is a distant third, Spoelstra is a fourth. But
that's more acceptable, but even putting him in the top 5.
Yeah, but he says that when he says Doc Rivers is a distant third, that means that Spoelstra could jump Doc Rivers at any time.
I could go there and I could coach the Miami Heat and we could win a championship because we have LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. I don't think I can say it enough. You got those 3 All-Stars and you have LeBron James.
And you have Ray Allen.
You do have Ray Allen, too, just coming off the bench and scoring clutch shots like it's nothing. When you have LeBron James on your team, and he is miles ahead of anybody else in the NBA, you might be able to put some people in the same category, but LeBron James can knock people out. You know, he's incredibly talented athlete, puts the team on his back, and can do whatever he wants.
Well, he puts the team on his back when he wants to.
Yeah, that's the only thing. The only thing you got to be able to do is get him to play. So, with that being said, you could get a therapist to coach that team and just keep LeBron happy and wanting to play, and they would still win championships.
See, I'm doing a little research right now. I'm looking at last year's finals was a different NBA. It was a different team for the Heat. Maybe it was because D. Wade didn't have the knee problems.
Well, I think the knee problems are a huge issue right now.
But, I mean, last year against Oklahoma City, they lose game 1, and then they basically swept the Thunder right out of the series.
That's what's going to happen when you got LeBron James and Dwayne Wade on your team, and Chris Bosh, exactly. I just think that now the issue is for Miami that Dwayne Wade's knees are not going to hold up. And nobody in Miami wants Chris Bosh to stay there. They want to get rid of him. You're not going to be able to do it with just LeBron James because somebody else will be able to out-star power you.
And you're not going to get much from the NBA draft with the last pick of the round.
Well, even in the first round, they're not going to have it. So it doesn't really matter. Like, I don't know where they're going to look to get somebody else. And that's a big concern, I think, for Miami because LeBron James is going to stay. I do not see LeBron James going anywhere. He's not going to just come here, win a couple championships, and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Dwayne Wade should retire. Will he? Probably not. But he should retire. Bosh is gone.
So you think Wade should retire after this? After winning this last championship?
You just won back-to-backs. Go retire.
Go
what else
off
are you
on
gonna
top.
Do? Yeah.
He's a 3-time champion, too.
Exactly. What else are you going to do?
Yet again, who did he win his championship with? Shaq.
Exactly. Shaq's the magic man. But anyways, you're not going to win another one probably. It's just not going to happen. I still think LeBron James is going to win a couple more. But I think he's going to do it somewhere else. Maybe not somewhere else, but with other people.
See, and the one thing, I'm going to bring this up because I know you want to do some ranting and some raving, Mark. It's been eaten up inside of you for about 38 minutes now. I'm going to give you your time. Go ahead. Talk about the officiating from this last NBA Finals and the NBA as a whole.
Well, I want to talk about the NBA, first of all. Here's the thing. The NBA has horrible officiating. Everybody knows it. And it's a flawed game to where people can cheat and it's okay. You can cheat, win games, and continue playing. You know, you get a $5,000 fine for flopping. And if you do it again, you get $10,000. Basically, the equivalent of what? $12 to $24, depending on your fine, of the average American citizen. Not that big of a deal. Now, you have this flawed game, and you have these officials who are known for making lots of mistakes, and known for every single game for essentially having arguable and questionable calls. The NBA doesn't care. If the NBA cared, they would have called those guys in and said, hey, we got to do a refresher course, just like the NHL did a few years back. And now the NHL, arguably the best officiated league.
I would say they have the best officials in all of hockey, or not all of hockey, in all of sports, because I mean, the one thing, and I'm just going to interject right now, is with hockey, watch an NHL game And look at how many times, if it's a penalty, if it's a goal, if it's this, if it's that, they don't care about throwing flags on the field, only getting one challenge. If they have to, they will say, you know what, pause the game, we're going to the monitors. Give me the little phone through the board. I'm talking to the guy looking at the TV screen. I want to get this call right.
And an issue, I think, with the NBA, because obviously basketball is a fast-paced game. If you ever played it, you're going to be out of breath
So is hockey.
really fast. Hockey is as well.
Hockey's more fast-paced than basketball.
It is. It definitely is. And I think that the officials in hockey are incredibly gifted athletes to be able to go on those skates the whole time. But the NBA needs another official. They need one more guy out there. And here's why. This is what the NBA needs. One guy dedicated to this half. The other guy dedicated to this half. Because you got referees running back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it doesn't work. Because they're going to miss things. Things are going to happen too fast. They're not going to be in the right position. They're going to be too worried about, catching their breath. And it's a problem. They need to fix that. They need to do something. But the NBA doesn't care because it works. It works. It gets them money. It gets the media talking about them. David Stern is the best businessman in all of sports, and that's what he's known for.
Well, and he's going to be gone.
He will be gone. We're going to see, this is the interesting thing, though. Are we going to see a guy who goes, I don't like these business policies. We're going to make this, a sports league. Or are we going to have a guy who goes, hey, we've been making more money than we've been making in a long time. I'm going to do even better.
Adam Silver is going to take over for David Stern, right?
I believe so.
Have they said who's going to take over for Stern? I would assume
I don't think it's official yet.
I think, wouldn't you put your money on Silver because he is the deputy commissioner?
You would think so. I don't understand how you can really pass the guy up, but at the same time, maybe he doesn't want it. Maybe he's happy where he is, or maybe collectively the NBA is going to say, we don't think that Silver's going to be the best guy. We want a guy who's going to do something else. We want a guy who's going to be able to do something else for the league. That's the thing I can see maybe happening, but all signs are pointing one direction right now.
I don't know. I'm assuming that he's going to take over because I just typed in his name on Google, and there's a story on Yahoo Sports that says, and the headline just says, David Stern's retirement means that the NBA will use new Adam Silver signed basketballs in 2014-15.
There you go. And hopefully the first thing that he decides to do
is fix the officiating.
Because everybody, I mean, seriously, you're going to get some people saying things every now and then, but it is a common belief that the NBA is rigged, that the NBA's referees tilt the game in one direction, and I don't doubt it.
And this is off topic, but it's kind of related to officiating. There was one point in one of the games in this NBA Finals where LeBron went into the paint for something and got the ball taken away, and he was on his ass. And he's sitting there. I remember posting on the Facebook page because it blew my mind. He sits there on the floor complaining to the referee that there should have been a call, while Tony Parker is taking the ball and putting it in the hoop.
Exactly. Get your ass up and play the game. This is the thing about sports. When you are in Little League or Pee Wee or whatever you want to call it, you're taught, don't worry about the refs. They're going to make their calls. You can't change that. Play the game.
And
the
Mark,
game is played on the court.
And Mark, I know you've said you don't like the comparisons, but I'm just going to say, did Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, did they ever about a call?
No, they got up and they played.
Yep.
Not only did they play, but it inspired them to say, you're not going to give me those calls? I'm not going to give you the need to.
Yep.
That's what you're taught. You're taught, and you see it all the time in high school sports, things like that. You see teams that aren't getting the calls and the other team's getting the benefits for obviously political reasons. But your coach is going to be there telling you, hey, we're not going to win with these calls. They are not going to help us. We have to go out of our way to make sure they can't hurt us. And that's the thing with the NBA. The NBA is left up to officials so much that this comparison bugs me because I'm a huge football guy. Everybody should know by this point, I love football. I love the NFL. And the NBA Finals reminded me of the Super Bowl. And this is why. And hey, maybe this is something David Stern wants. But anyways, because we have a no call at the end of the game in Game 6, where we could have tied
You're
that.
talking about the layup attempt by Manu, right?
Yes, exactly. We could have got the game going to the Spurs. The Spurs will win it. We're done. All right? And what happens on that? No call. We get a no call foul that everybody out there is saying it was a foul, but it's the end of the game. So, just let them play. No, if you're going to call fouls nonstop, that's the culture of your league. Call the damn foul. It reminds me of 2 back-to-back plays in the Super Bowl this year where the 49ers are making this miracle comeback in the second half of the game. They're on the goal line. Can the Ravens D stop them and make a goal line stop? The answer is yes, because there was an offside sack, and then there were 2, not 1. Wait, Ricky, not 1. Well, I can't really. It's 2. I wanted to make a LeBron James joke, but it didn't work. But there's 2 pass interference calls on 2 different wide receivers, the only 2 who are going to be able to catch the ball.
You know what I'm going to say about this, Mark? Get off your ass and play the game. That's what I'm hearing out of you right now.
Essentially, but I mean, you're going to have refs that are influencing the game, and the NFL isn't as bad. Nowhere near as bad as the NBA, obviously. But it just bugged me to see the Super Bowl decided. They always say referees don't want to make calls that decide the game. By not making that call in the Super Bowl, either one of those calls, the 49ers lost to the Ravens. And the 49ers probably could have won. With this no call.
Wait. On a different story, the 49ers were only in that game because of a power outage that magically happened.
No officiating on that. Where's the officiating
I'm
on
not saying officiating. I'm saying that we could throw a little conspiracy theory in that. The Ravens are running away with the game, and then there's a power outage.
Let's slow down the game. Not really.
And then magically the Niners just come back and play some football.
I think that you had a young team with a young coach that needed to get their asses kicked for a little bit and kind of get brought back into the game. I think that's what happened there, but that's not the point. You have a moment where officiating, no calls, decide the outcome of a game. And in the NBA, the Spurs could have and probably would have won with no calls being called. If you're going to call things, call things. And the NBA is known for calling every damn foul. And every foul that shouldn't have been a foul. And it's just a problem that needs to get fixed with the new commissioner because the NBA makes money off of bad calls, so they're not going to fix it. And I think that referees know it's okay for us to make mistakes because David Stern doesn't care. He's making his money still. That's my thought on the whole officiating. The NBA doesn't want it to be good because it makes them money. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree, but that's my whole thought on the NBA's officiating. But I think that's a little bit of enough on this season of the NBA. I think we should look ahead to the draft, which is coming up just on Thursday. So, Ricky, talking about the NBA draft, we kind of sort of mentioned tiny tidbits, I guess, of it. Noel, are we agreeing that he's going to be the first overall?
I don't know. Me personally, I think he is going to be the overall number 1. But I mean, I'm looking at I've got 3 mock drafts up, and I've got one that says Alex Len out of Maryland, which my first thought is, why? What has Alex Len done to deserve the number 1 pick?
Well, I don't think it's what he's done as much of you're trying to get a center on Cleveland.
I also have
Noel's been hurt.
There's also one that says Noel, and then one that has 2 separate ones. One says Noel, but I mean, an interesting pickup, and I think it would be a better pickup than Noel, would be Otto Porter out of Georgetown.
I think personally, as a first round pick, you need our first overall pick. You need a guy who you know is going to come on the court and he's going to start playing exceptional basketball right now. And Noel, you don't know if he's going to come back because he's hurt.
There's only one thing that I like about, if you're Cleveland, you have one of two plans you can go with. You can either take Noel, sit him for the entire season, and then basically suck again for the number one pick, and then Noel comes back, you get another possibility at a number one pick because the NBA draft lottery is rigged, and you basically stack up for a championship. Or you take a guy like Otto Porter, or in my mind, honestly, they don't need a shooting guard, but I think the best player in this draft is Victor Oladipo, and you take a player that can play right now and try to make a playoff push this year.
I always am adamant on make the playoff push now, make your fans happy now, get the best guy on the board. And Noel, yeah, he probably is the best guy on the board if he was healthy. He's not. So why not, I'll go with you on take Oladipo because I think he's a phenomenal player. He's definitely going to be one of the best. So why not take someone like him? Why not get somebody, especially, you got your shooting guard, somebody who can get fans excited. He's going to be out there scoring points. Everybody loves a guy who can score points. Nobody loves the guy who, he's probably good, but he's sitting on the bench because he hurt himself.
Well, and I mean, it's all about, they also have to think about what their fans want to see. Do they want to draft Nerlens Noel and then have their fans see him on the bench for a year, maybe half a year?
I mean, you're going to be a fan, especially someone who's not a diehard fan, they're more casual. They're going to go, isn't that the guy we drafted with the first overall pick? Why is he sitting on the bench? And then you say, oh, well, he's hurt. Why'd we draft a guy who's hurt? I want a guy who can play.
Yeah.
You don't win games by sitting on the bench.
I don't know. And I mean, I'm also, like I have been, I'm doing a little bit of just on-the-spot research because I would take Victor Oladipo, but that's because personally, my gut feeling, like I said, Victor Oladipo is probably the best player in this draft. Better than Trey Burke, better than McLemore, better than Len, better than Porter. He's the most NBA ready right now. And the one shooting guard that is going to be a free agent this season or this offseason for the Cavaliers, Danny Gibson. So, I mean, you can get rid of Gibson, who was making about almost $5 million, or just over $4 million annual salary. Get rid of him. Get a rookie like Oladipo.
I mean,
money might be actually the same.
The only thing I don't like about that idea is I don't like the idea of kind of replacing a player with a draft pick because I would prefer to continue building, even if you got a guy who you're like, we're not super happy about. But why? The reason why I would do that is because was Gibson their starter? No. Deion Waiters was their starting shooting guard. But you can have Victor Oladipo. Can he start in the NBA? Absolutely. But his defensive prowess and his, like I said, how NBA ready he is, to have a guy like that come off the bench, I bet you if the Cavaliers drafted Victor Oladipo number 1 and made him their sixth man, he would be Rookie of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year all in one. I don't think you can draft a sixth man, though, first overall. If they were to take Oladipo, they have to change his position. You can't have him coming off the bench. I just don't think your fans aren't going to be happy seeing your number 1 overall pick, your lottery pick. You shouldn't have it, but you have it. Come, off.
Yeah, but you got to also look at the other picks that Cleveland has. They have the 19th pick in the first round, and they have the first pick in the second round. And that second round pick, I'm not even going to touch it because I think second round picks are kind of they're not sexy
NBA.
picks. But that 19th pick, I'm looking at NBADraft.net, and they are projecting Mason Plumlee, power forward out of Duke. You're telling me that Cleveland wouldn't be in good shape if they took Victor Oladipo number 1 overall, and then if Mason Plumlee landed at 19 to them?
But at number 19, why don't you just take Tim Hardaway Jr.? You got a good shooting guard who's going to be a better guy to come off the bench.
Because Victor Oladipo's better than Tim Hardaway Jr.
Yeah, but you're investing too much in a first-round pick on a guy coming off the bench. At number 19, you can get a guy who's not as good, but pretty damn good.
Yeah, but
coming off
also,
the bench.
I mean, Dion Waiters was pretty good this season for the Cavaliers. But you're telling me Victor Oladipo can't challenge Waiters for the starting job in Cleveland?
I think he could take it from Waiters.
And I'm just going to say this. The thing I love about Oladipo is his defense. And I feel like with Oladipo, you get defense. With Hardaway Jr., you get a shooter.
I just kind of feel that for me personally, a 6-man, I want somebody who's going to be a shooter. I want a guy who's going to be able to come up and just score points. Because I don't want to have that drop off when we start taking our starters.
But they got enough of people. They have Kyrie who can score points. Waiters can score points. Tristan Thompson can score points. CJ Miles can score points. I feel like this Cavaliers team, they need to add some defense to this team. Because how do you win championships? Defense.
Or you get LeBron James on your team.
Or you get LeBron James, but they're not going to have LeBron James.
We're not going to start thinking LeBron James is coming back?
No, we're not ESPN. But I mean, I don't know. Personally, I go with the reach. I take Oladipo number 1. But the one thing I want to throw out to you, I want to talk about our hometown Bulls a little bit. They pick 20th, and then they have the 49th overall pick in the second round. And the one thing a different site, draftexpress.com, I'm going to be honest. The 2 picks that they have going for the Bulls, absolutely love them. In the first round, they have Tim Hardaway Jr., which for the Bulls, I like that pick because, I mean, Mark, you've been saying it for how many weeks? What do the Bulls need?
We need a shooting guard.
We need a shooting guard. And what do they have us taking? I mean, this is if he falls to us. But what do they have us taking in the second round? Oh, that's right. Trevor Mbakwe, the block machine from the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
And I would love to have him on our team. A guy who basically is going to fit perfectly in the Thibodeau system of defense.
You know that block shot that he had? I want to say it was against Illinois. That block shot he had where he just tipped it with his fingertip and it went right into the stands.
All you need.
Could you imagine his blocking ability harnessed by Thibodeau's defensive knowledge and tutelage?
It's just a perfect situation where a team that's known for defense with a coach that is the best defensive coach in the NBA, and now you're going to give this big guy who can go up there and go, you think you're going to make a shot? No, you're not going to make that shot. I'm not going to let you do it. It's amazing, and this is the kind of guy we can have to compete for, a championship. Maybe not right away, but in the future, because he'll be the guy who keeps teams from scoring, keeps teams from getting hot. I would love it. I want it on the team so bad.
See, the only thing and this is one I disagree with the Bulls, is CBS Sports.com. They have 2 mock drafts, and one of them for the Bulls, I'm just talking first round, taking Alan Crabb out of Cal. The other one has Reggie Bullock both shooting guards, one out of Cal, the second one out of UNC, the Tar Heels. I don't know. I am kind of, I'm going to say it, I'm in love with Tim Hardaway Jr.
I completely agree with you. I was a big fan of Michigan for the whole season, especially the tournament. They were a good team out there, and I think he's the kind of unloved player of Michigan. I mean, maybe, if you're an actual fan of Michigan, you're saying, what do you mean he's unloved? But how many people really were paying attention to Hardaway Jr.? Exactly, nobody. Who's paying attention?
Because they were all paying attention to...
You got Trey Burke up there, and obviously Trey Burke is an attention sucker up there because he is also just such a good player who I think should... I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of a sucker for Trey Burke. I really liked watching him play. I think he's going to be in the top 4, but even then I think he should climb up a little bit. If someone's going to be a surprise for taking, 1 or 2, Trey Burke.
See, and I mean, right now I'm looking at the the Bulls free agents. You got Bellinelli, Cook. Technically, they have Taj on here, but Taj has a 4-year contract that's going to start right up this offseason. Nazi, Vlad, and then Robinson, he's already gone.
And I think that you get your shooting guard in the first round.
Do you keep Bellinelli then?
I would keep Bellinelli. I have no problem keeping Bellinelli. He kind of showed some moments where he was pretty good, but he's inconsistent.
You got to keep Nazi, though, right? Got to keep Nazi.
I'm fine. Basically, out of the entire list, I mean, I don't really care as much about Nazi, but keep Nazi, keep Bellinelli, get rid of everybody else.
See, I'm in agreement. You keep Bellinelli, keep Nazi, everyone else is gone. Your 2 draft picks. Let's say hypothetically it's what we like. The Tim Hardaway Jr. and the Trevor Mbakwe. Tim Hardaway Jr., he'll take the spot of, on the roster, I'm saying, not in the rotation, on the roster of Daquan Cook, shooting guard. And then you've got Mbakwe taking the roster spot of Vlad, the small forward. Then you got one more roster spot with Nate Robinson. You know what I say you do? Try to shop Luau Deng for 2 players. I would say, hey, why not try to grow little balls? Grow some balls. Call up the Minnesota Timberwolves. Try to work out a deal. Send in Deng to Minnesota and get K-Love to come to Chicago.
I would love to get Deng off the team via trade. Because
it's not because he's a bad player.
No, but you can get something just as good, if not better.
It's just he's got a huge contract.
Exactly. You're spending so much money for a guy who's not going to be one of your stars. And obviously, we're probably not going to keep him at the end of his contract anyways, because he's going to be too expensive. So why not trade him now for a couple of cheaper guys who can do the same job?
Well, this is his contract year, too. He's a free agent. He's a free agent in 2014.
Which is why you got to get rid of him now. I mean, we kind of always want to see a Chicago draft day trade, and we never see it. It's the perfect time to do it. Get rid of Luol Deng on draft day. Get some better young players who can only know not only know, but learn the Thibodeau system young, early, be great players for this defensive-based team, and let's make a run. Maybe not this first year, but next year we can make a run at it.
Yeah, and I mean, the one thing that obviously helps is that D. Rose is going to be back.
He will, and he's already starting to get basically ready to play. You know, he wasn't ready in the season. He wasn't ready in the NBA playoffs. Whatever, that's fine. Now he'll be ready. All the pressure is off of him. People are no longer scrutinizing him every second about will he play, won't he play. Now he's going to be ready. He's going to be ready for this season, and that's why this season's going to be very good. We're going to be very happy this season. But next season, maybe even after that, I don't want to jinx anybody, but we're looking pretty damn good. We're looking pretty damn good to go pretty far.
Well, I heard this from Dave because he said he listens to The Herd a lot. He said this week that the herd said that the Bulls are his favorite for next season.
I wouldn't go that far, but in the near future, yeah.
Well, and the last thing, we kind of want to close the podcast off with a little bit of a different kind of taste than we usually put. Usually we talk about sports, but this week, Mark on the YouTube channel did a great reaction video to the game The Last of Us for PS3. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're listening, you haven't played Last of Us, you're going to play Last of Us, just stop listening right now. We're going to be throwing some spoilers out there, and we don't want to ruin anything for you. So right now, I don't even care if you turn it off while I'm talking. Thank you for listening. It was nice to have you, but we're going to be talking some spoilers with The Last of Us. So if you care what happens, don't listen. But I mean,
even if you are somebody who hasn't played and you're not sure, you're kind of on the fence, you should play it, definitely. I think if you haven't played and you're absolutely not going to, sure, you can feel free to keep listening. Or if you've played it and finished it, listen.
I'm saying if you're for sure going to get it and play it, you probably don't want to listen.
I say
right
even
now.
if you're on the fence about it, read some reviews that aren't going to spoil something for you. Buy it, play it, then you can come back and join the conversation.
Well, we're going to get into this conversation, and I mean, Mark, I'm going to be honest, didn't know anything about it until last week after we recorded the podcast. And you said, Ricky, you got to go get this game. And I was like, I got the money. Why not? Oh, my God, was this worth the money?
I wouldn't lie to you, Ricky. I would not do that to you. It was amazing. And I keep saying it, and I keep feeling weird saying it because it just literally came out last Friday. Best game of the generation.
See, I mean, when I hear you say that, only part of me wants to be like, I don't know. But
what else is there?
But the only reason I'm saying that is because it just came out.
Exactly. And I mean, what else are you going to throw in the same category? Metal Gear Solid 4.
Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Heart, not this generation, though.
True.
I'm talking, when I say generation, I
So you're
specifically
saying just
mean
PlayStation
Xbox
3?
360 and PlayStation 3.
Oh, let me think. I would throw
And the Wii, I guess.
the Batman Arkham games.
They're very good games. The only thing I had, and I love the story with them. I think they're very
I would
fun.
say the Batman Arkham games.
You don't share an emotional connection with Batman in the same way that you do with Joel and Ellie. That's my only complaint with that one.
Borderlands was a really good game from both Borderlands.
For me, the Borderlands, my issue with the Borderlands is
that's kind of different.
It's too jokey, shooty. You know, I think it's
True.
This game was
different
so
genre.
much more mature.
Well, it was that was the point of it. Borderlands is supposed to be, like you said, kind of like satire, where this wasn't. And I mean, the best thing, what I loved most about it was the character of Ellie, and I mean, it wasn't just the voice acting, because the voice acting was great. I want to say the Ashley Johnson did the voice. Great part.
Not only did the voice, but did the motion capture as well. And I think that's a big thing for this game. There was so much motion capture that it immediately makes you feel like they're not fictional characters. They're almost real people.
They are. And I mean, I got so invested in Ellie throughout the entire game to the fact where I thought to myself after playing the game for a second time, because what happens if you're unfamiliar, it's kind of like the same system that the Batman Arkham, I want to say it was Arkham City did, where you beat the game once and then you can beat it on what's called New Game Plus, is when you get weapons like your shotgun, your rifle,
that flamethrower. I love that flamethrower.
You keep whatever upgrades that you did to it. And the Batman game was different. You already got your gadgets right off the bat. But I mean, after playing New Game Plus, I am so invested in Ellie that I thought to myself, when I have a daughter someday, I want her to be exactly like Ellie.
It's she's such a strong character. I mean, she's a little defiant.
Strong but lovable.
Yeah, she's a little defiant, so I don't know about the whole wanting her to be your daughter.
Yeah, but I mean, you say defiant, but I mean, look at, is she really, at first maybe a little defiant of Joel, who I want to say, I know the first name is Troy, I want to say it's Troy Bruckner, who did the voice of Joel. It's the same guy who did the voice for BioShock Infinite. But I mean, at the beginning, you kind of get this vibe where Ellie is defiant of Joel because there's kind of a little back and forth, like, yeah, you know what, I don't care. I don't care why I'm smuggling you. Just don't talk to me. Like, there's even a cut scene where they get to the safe house and Joel just lays on the couch and Ellie goes, well, what are you doing? And he goes, killing time. And he just closes his eyes like he's going to go take a nap. And she goes, well, what do I do? And he goes, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and Troy Baker is the voice actor there, and he does video games as well. But I think that, and I think I'm at a little, or you're at a little bit of a disadvantage here because I've read so far they have a run of 4 comics.
I am going to read them now that I know about them.
Yeah, I've read the first 2, and you are right that she kind of grows out of it a little bit. But she's extremely defiant in those. And I'm not going to spoil the comics. She's extremely defiant as a young girl.
And I'm talking about the game.
And she does steal a horse in the game.
Her character is like, yeah, but she steals a horse because she feels like
nearly gets herself killed. In the process.
She steals a horse because
those camps.
See, I feel like she stole the horse in the game because she had that, the character had a, like, wanting for Joel to, I wouldn't say treat her like an adult, but kind of, you know, show that you, not just show that you care, but it's kind of like how you treat your kid. And you kind of see that process with Joel where he kind of, without saying it, and more towards the end, it kind of comes to this realization like, wow, Ellie's kind of like his daughter, but you kind of see that development where it's like she asks for the gun and he goes, no. It's a safety issue. At first it might have been because, oh, I don't trust you. Then it became well, I don't want you to hurt yourself. And then he finally trusted her to give her the gun in the financial district of Pittsburgh when she has the rifle and she's helping you kill some of the bad enemies.
Yeah, and even so, like, right in this area that we're talking about, like, with the horse and everything, I love that line of, you ain't my daughter, and I sure as hell ain't your father. Or I might have mixed up the way that the order of that.
Oh, that killed me. When the first time I played that, oh, did that kill me.
Well, because you connect to the character so much faster than Joel does. So where you're just no, it wasn't, that's your daughter now. Stop it.
It wasn't just that I was so invested in Ellie. It's just like, I mean, it's just there's so much going on with these characters to where, like you said, you kind of feel like they're real people. And I mean, you got to think with Joel, he loses his daughter as soon as this outbreak happens. And I mean, you can tell that he's still, even though it's 20 years later, he's still not over his daughter's death. And I mean, we've talked in great length about this. There's even a part where Ellie's asking about it, and she even brings up something about the wife. And Joel doesn't say anything, and Ellie just goes, too much? And Joel goes, too much.
And you don't know anything about his wife. You don't know if she was around or how long she had been gone. I think it's safe to assume she wasn't with him still during the outbreak because of the Father's Day card from his daughter where it's specifically to the dad. There's no mention of the mom. There's no pictures of the mom.
You're talking about the one you find in his daughter's room at the very beginning of the game?
Yeah, if you go explore in the beginning of the game, you can find a lot of fun stuff.
And that's another thing, like, I absolutely love about this game where is it linear? Yes, in a way. Like there's
I think it's very linear. It just gives you moments.
It's linear to advance the story, but I mean, there's so much opportunity to go exploring. You find collectibles, there's artifacts, there's the pendants that you can find, you find parts to better your weapons, you find supplements to better your character's skills, and then there's things where it's like you have to craft these things, and one of the things you can craft is a shiv, and there's special doors where you need a shiv to open it, and the only way you can get the rewards that are inside is to find like blades and binding to make a shiv. And it's so like, and I'm totally missing the optional conversations that you can have with Ellie or with Tess earlier on in the game. And it's just, does it have a great story? Is the story linear? Yes. But there is so much room for exploring and exploration.
Well, there's two things that I want to say in response to that. The first of all being the way that they made this world come alive, and I loved it, was with all the notes. You know, notes from a watch guard, notes from a character named Ish, and you could follow him by just following these notes.
Well, it was like, and I'm just going to take Ish because you were talking about it. It's right after you get out of Pittsburgh. You've met up with Henry and Sam, and you feel like, I felt like playing the game, like, you know, I'm so glad we escaped those brutal, like, thugs that were going to kill us and probably eat us and just do bad things to us. You survive that, and you're traveling through these sewers, and you find the letters. It's like Ish is talking to you, telling you about what's going on with him. And then you see, like, you start to see in the sewers, like, okay, people are living here. And then, boom, you find a ton of infected. You know it's them.
Yeah, and it's so great to see, and it makes the world feel alive. It makes you feel lucky to be alive. The only other thing I had from what you were saying before, was we're talking about the optional conversations you can have. And at the end, when you beat the game, I don't remember if it's before or after the credits, but they show you your statistics and everything that you did. And they show you how many conversations with Ellie you had of the optional conversations. I missed one. And I was so upset with myself to have missed one. I was like, what? You know, I wanted to know what the conversation was. I wanted to know if it was important. You know, and plus just feel bad of like, because you know, you walk into this game knowing the odds are these characters have a very limited amount of time together.
Yeah.
And you want them to share all the moments together. And that's a thing, I mentioned it to you, and I've mentioned it in my reaction video of how long did you let them watch the giraffes? And which is a silly thing to say. But I let them sit there and just enjoy that moment together for, you know, like 7 or 8 minutes, because I just wanted those two characters. You know, you get to love Joel and Ellie so much. You want them to just sit there and enjoy each other's company for as long as possible before this ends.
See, and the one thing I noticed the second time through playing it is I sat there longer than usual because I wanted to see if something would happen the longer you stay there and watch it. Maybe like the giraffes do something or Ellie says something. Didn't find anything, but I mean, the one thing I notice is when you go to leave that area, Joel looks back at one of the giraffes, just reaching up to take a bite out of that tree.
Exactly. It's such a beautiful moment, and honestly, one of the most powerful moments, and it's so bittersweet because you know, I mean, Ricky didn't know. I don't know how you didn't know, but you knew this was going to be the end. You knew it was coming to a close.
See, I don't know. I felt like there was so much more to do because I felt like when I was at that point, I was like, you know what, we're going to get to the hospital and it's not going to be like, oh, hey, we're at the hospital. It's all hunky-dory. I'm like, going to go down at the hospital to where...
And it sure did.
Like, going to go down. This game is... We're closer to the end than I once was, but I still got a while to go. That's what I was thinking.
And I just... I don't know. I mean, it was such a beautiful moment with the characters. You're absolutely in love with the characters at this point. It's so great.
Well, and I mean, after what happens before it during winter.
Yeah, Winter is a powerful storyline, and I would say close to one of my favorite things to happen in a video game, only rivaled with a boss battle in Metal Gear Solid 3, which is awesome. I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, so I'm a little biased towards those. But there's this thing where it's a boss battle where you're literally being haunted by the ghosts of people and animals you have killed throughout the game. And I think that's such a unique, interesting concept. And then for this one, the way it switches back and forth for a while, you don't know if Joel's alive. You don't know what Dave and James are up to or why they're helping you. You know, there's so many unknowns. And then to see these horrible things maybe are going to happen to Ellie, while you still don't know if Joel's going to make it out alive. It's just so much going on. You really care about these characters. You want it to end well. And in the back of your head, you know, something's not right with this David guy. He's going to do something to Ellie. And that whole time you're going through that, just hoping that Ellie makes it out of this situation the same girl that she was entering it.
My first playthrough, I didn't, when you first meet David, I didn't really know how to gauge him because I didn't put together the connection until after you go through all this fighting infected with him. And then he says like, oh, something about blah, 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 blah. My guys were murdered by a guy and a little girl. And you find out, well, it's Joel and Ellie. David sent his guys to the hospital. My question, though, about the game is first off, why did David send them there? Because it kind of felt like to me that they were sent there for a reason to maybe kill Joel and Ellie. Because they just see them and boom, they fire right away.
I think it was people on their turf. I think, because that's what the world's boiled down to. It's boiled down to a bunch of different wandering gangs, basically, trying to kind of create or recreate some village or civilization or whatever. And this was their turf. Because in the winter scene, they didn't get far. Because Ellie had to basically drag him off to a nearby village.
True.
They didn't get very far, so they were still in the turf of this gang. And it's David's gang. He's the leader of the gang. He figured out, hey, there's people going to that lab that the Fireflies used to use. Go find out what's up. Is it those Fireflies? Because I'm willing to bet that one of the reasons the Fireflies left was because of David's gang. They kicked them out. So they're saying, is it some of those Fireflies? Do we have to deal with those guys again?
So you don't think it had anything to do with the infected monkeys at the university?
I don't think the monkeys were anything. I think it was just kind of a way of, seeing something cool. You see animals taking over again. You see plant life take over. Now you get to see animals do it. And the fact of just figuring out a little bit of the Fireflies. Figuring out that they're willing to test on animals what's going on with the infection and everything and see if they can come up with a cure. Because essentially the only reason the Fireflies exist is to come up with a cure.
See, and I mean, also one of the questions that kind of were created in my mind was when Ellie's captured, or not even that, before she's captured, and David says they have women and children at their camp. He lied about that, right? It was all guys at that camp.
It was all guys that came after you. You never saw anyone else. You never saw women. You never saw children. I don't really doubt that there's women and children, but if there are, there's two. There's a very small amount. And this is one thing I said I love about this game because it wasn't afraid to get to this part. This is something that in post-apocalyptic...
it got a little dark and twisted.
Yeah, in post-apocalyptic stories, they avoid this a lot because they don't want to deal... They just don't want to deal with a complex issue like this that's kind of, gonna affect people. And it's a dark thing. But in this kind of world, men are probably gonna do terrible things to women and children.
especially
a young 14-year-old girl.
Especially
that you
when
find.
especially when you're in a, and I mean, like you said, they kind of steer away from it, but in these post-apocalyptic worlds, there is no law enforcement.
There's no, the only
Unless
law
you're in
is
a
the
quarantine
law in your
zone.
own area. Well,
Yeah.
basically, the law is David. And David is the one who claims this 14-year-old girl is my personal
As
prize.
his prize, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think they have to worry about things. But I think that if you're a woman in the post-apocalyptic world, unless you're in a decently well-civilized area, you're not going to last too long with these gangs of, these vicious guys who are murdering, who are possibly cannibals, who are probably just raping any woman they find.
Well, and I mean, Marlene even references it at the end of the game.
Yeah. She's I think, what, she said you're going to get her, like, raped and killed? Or?
Well, she just said something like, when they were leaving, she's like, well, if she's not raped or killed first.
And I think I like that they never mentioned the possibility of that before. Like, they obviously killed, yes, but you don't mention the possibility of what, bad men could do to a young 14-year-old girl. But it's kind of in the back of your head of it's a possibility, but games don't really touch it, or movies or, books don't touch it very much. So to have it kind of brought up and brought right into your face.
And, like, I'm going to bring up something that you talked about in your reaction video. Right after Ellie just beats David's face in with a machete and just him up. She's looking at this nice little, I'm going to call it a mural of a nice deer. And you said it's kind of like it's symbolism because she's looking at it like, okay, that the deer that led me to David. But then I questioned, did she think the deer that led me to David, who was going to rape me, or the deer that led me to David that forced me to do what I did to him?
I think it's a combination of both. It was the worst thing that's ever happened in her life. Even worse than seeing her friend Riley die.
Because, like, she's
worse than getting infected.
Because she's shot people in the game, like actual guys.
She's never had to go so close and personal and have it be not only a life and death situation, but her life would never be the same if she didn't stop him. And that's always going to be there for her. She's always going to see. And that's my big thing when I mention, is humanity even worth saving in these characters' eyes? I don't think either one of them thinks it is, because Joel's lived 20 years of seeing this, and his own daughter murdered by, a National Guard reserve men. And then Ellie, who always
Wasn't she bit, though?
No.
She wasn't bit? Okay.
No, she was basically just there, and the guy said, are they infected? He said, we're not infected. He called up the thing, and they told him, just shoot them. Because it's a quarantine zone, just get rid of them. They're trying to get out, kind of a thing. But to have, for Ellie, who had but previously thought the world was worth saving, she was personally with the Firefly movement. She might not have been a Firefly, but she's with the movement.
I feel like she still thought the world was worth saving.
I think that David ruined it for her.
No, I don't think so.
And this is my thought, because David, she got to see firsthand all alone how horrible the world is. She saw people who were eating people, preparing people's bodies to be cooked and eaten.
And
she was going to get raped,
and
murdered.
You're only saying that. So you're saying that she thought the world wasn't worth saving because at the end, when Joel lies to her, she just nods the head and goes, okay.
Even more, that whole moment, she sees the deer and she's dead silent. She doesn't want to talk to Joel. She doesn't want to do anything. She doesn't want to move on.
Yeah,
She's
one of the
zone.
optional conversations are, you're a little bit more quiet than today. Or like, Joel's like telling her how he's going to teach her to play a sixth string, and she didn't say anything. And it's like, you turn around, press triangle, and he goes, Ellie, I'm talking to you.
Exactly. And she's cold. She literally at the quarantine zone sits down, and Joel's sitting there waiting and goes, Ellie, like he needs her help. She doesn't want to move on, not only because she doesn't want to lose Joel. she's afraid she might lose Joel. She doesn't know what's going to happen with that. Maybe he leaves again. She's afraid of people leaving her. She doesn't want to be alone. That's her biggest fear. But also, I don't necessarily think she's that excited to be the thing that brings back, that's the cure to bring back mankind, because she just saw how horrible mankind is. And for her, are they going to change? Are people like that going to be able to change? And then later on, that is my thought of, she doesn't believe Joel. She knows Joel is just telling her something to protect her. But I think that she nods to think about it. She has that one nod, goes, okay. Or, well, okay, not how I said it at first. But to accept, I'm putting my faith in you. I know you might not be telling the truth, but I think that you know what's best. And I want to say, though, I think going to Tommy's village might change her mind in the future. Sequel, maybe? It might happen. She might later want to be the cure for mankind, might later think that humanity is worth saving because of the fact that she's been able to deal with people who are good people.
See, and one of the things about this game that I kind of like, because it gives them, like you've been saying, room for DLC, room for what they're going to do if they make a sequel and a third, because like we've said, there's been so many Uncharted's. And just like a few of them, the wife. One of the things I thought of was, how did he get from Texas to Boston? How did he meet Tess? Because that's one of the things. It's like his daughter dies, and then it's like, boom, 20 years later, and you have to kind of almost jump right in and kind of learn on the fly who Tess is. There's also the kind of, I would like to see with David, maybe something like The Walking Dead did with the governor, where for the graphic novels, they came out with a collection, a big book that was just on the governor and his past. I think that'd be cool to do that with David.
I don't want to learn anything else about David personally.
His descent into madness. Maybe he was an okay guy.
I don't want David to be redeemable, is my thought. Because that's the thing with the governor and The Walking Dead. You see his backstory and you feel bad. You feel bad for how horrible, of a descent he had. I don't want to feel that way about David. I don't want there to be any forgiveness.
Because he gave off a rapey vibe.
Because he was going to rape, kill, and basically, when I first thought...
I don't think he would have killed her.
Well, yeah, I think at the end he was going to kill her. But at first, I thought that Ellie was going to be his personal, sex slave.
Yeah.
And that was the vibe I got from him. Not from the very, very start.
I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but that just brings up one of the funniest parts, one of the funniest cinematics in this whole game is David's trying to talk to Ellie, and he's like, well, what's your name? And she's like one of the best responses to, now when someone asks me, what's your name? I'm going to respond like this. He goes, what's your name? And she just looks him dead cold in the face and goes, why? And then it's like she breaks his finger by slamming him into the gated fence. And he's like, well, you're making it different. What am I going to tell the others? And she just goes, Ellie. And he looks like, huh? And she goes, Ellie. Tell them that Ellie is the girl who broke your finger.
I love it. That moment was so awesome. Two things, I think, and we were talking about it before with David and Ellie's going at it. I saw this perfect comparison. I don't know who made it, but it shows, first of all, it shows the daughter, his daughter Sarah, Joel's daughter Sarah, and when she got shot and she's in his arms, and he's trying to revive her. Then it shows Ellie, and next to it, Ellie when she was almost drowning, Joel's trying to revive her. Then it shows just under, on the left, it's got Sarah in his arms, when he's saying, oh, baby, it's okay, you're going to be all right. And then it shows from the David scene with Ellie covered in blood in Joel's arms, and he's telling her it's going to be okay. I just thought it was a perfect kind of demonstration of what he went through. Well, yeah, foreshadowing in one sense, but also just what he went through and what he has lost in this world and almost lost with Ellie.
I think that David scene that you just said, her covered in blood and him saying it's going to be okay, that's where it started. That's where it kind of kicked in, where it was like, you know what? I do think of her as my daughter.
And I think he had that moment. I mean, it could have been just that moment in his arms where really
that is why
him.
When she's drowning, they're like, hands up, and he's like, she's not breathing. Like, he doesn't even care what the Firefly has to say.
But I think when he had that moment, he wakes up and she's not there. He might not have completely realized it, but Joel has
panicked.
that moment, where he panics and says, where's Ellie? Where's my daughter, essentially? Because at that point, it's his daughter. Something that I mentioned to you, and you had to confirm it for me, but I gotta say it, tore me up inside, was the knife. Ellie's knife that she plays with the whole time. She uses it to kill clickers, to kill men that she has to, when she's being hunted. And you play the game, and the start menu just has the window. And it's a, nice little window, whatever. There's a tree or whatever. Then you beat the game, and you go back to that menu. And I watched the whole credits because I wanted to see if there was any advantage. Ever since Marvel movies, basically you have to watch the credits of everything now. Because now it's a thing that people might have extra for you, watching the credits. But then her knife is sitting there on the windowsill. And that just killed me. That one tore me up. It was such a sad moment because the game's over. You love these characters. Joel and Ellie have such an amazing relationship together. And then her knife is sitting there. Oh, it's so sad. So sad.
See, for me, because I'm a music guy, probably the best part of this game has to be after it was so fun going into the doctor's room. They're getting ready to pull surgery, and you basically get to pick whatever gun you want and kill the doctors however you want. You can do it executioner style with a pistol, with an assault rifle, with a shotgun. But after that, Joel just kind of picks up Ellie, and he's trying to escape with her, and you've got all these fireflies, like flashlights shining everywhere, that you get the sense that they're chasing you, trying to shoot at you and stop you. And it's just how everything is kind of portrayed and the music that's playing, that really touched me.
And speaking of music, I mean, the whole soundtrack is incredible. It really is a great soundtrack. And I love my personal favorite soundtrack thing. And I didn't realize it until I was listening to it, how many, motifs there were and things that just represented characters and things going on. But the Vanishing Grace is my favorite song in the game.
Do you know where in the game they play that?
It's the giraffe scene.
Okay.
And that little melody is played so often throughout the game, you don't realize it until later on. You realize how often it's played in various ways with various instruments, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful song, a beautiful background to have, and even at that beautiful moment, I mean, that song is what, kills it in that moment.
See, and that's the one thing I feel like this game is the total package. It's not just, and it's one of those things where, I mean, the one thing I like in games where they teach you things, but they assume that you have general knowledge about things. Like, they'll teach you how to crouch, they'll teach you how to jump over stuff, but one of the things they didn't go over was how to aim the gun, because I thought that they assumed that it's like, okay, enough people play Call of Duty that it's the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think things like that are necessarily needed in the game, especially for the fact that it's a survival game in a way. So,
well, I'm saying I like that because usually games nowadays,
they hold your hand. They
hold your hand through the beginning of the game.
And I actually would have preferred if they didn't have a triangle every single time you could pick something up. Because I agree, there's too much hand holding nowadays, and I think I would have liked, especially for some of those artifacts, let me stumble across them. And maybe not like...
Well, for the artifacts, the triangle doesn't come
circle.
up.
They have the little circle.
Or
and you
they'll
go,
make
and
it
then there's a
shiny.
triangle.
They'll make it shiny.
Yeah, and then you go up and you press triangle and you get it. I don't know. I mean, it's just a little minor thing. I think some people had an issue that I read online. Anyone I noticed who had an issue, they either wanted it to be 100% stealth game, and it's not. 100% first-person shooter, it's not that either. Or they, had a problem that they didn't get choices in the game. And I think, there's so many and well-written articles, too, about people complaining that there's no choices and how choices are an accepted thing now in video games that you need to have. And I disagree.
There's only one choice. There's only one choice that I'd be okay with in this game.
No. And I know what you're going to say. And no.
What do you think I'm going to say?
You're going to say if Ellie lives or dies.
Yep. That's the only choice that you could. If you're going to put a choice in this game, that is the only choice.
There shouldn't be a choice because it... And here's background. Naughty Dog initially had a different ending to the game. Not a lot of people know that, but they had a different ending to the game. They wouldn't say what the ending was. It's just that it didn't make sense for the characters and the way they've been built up.
And you're assuming Ellie died.
Ellie died in the first one. I'm not even assuming. I know Ellie died in the first one. They let Joel let her die. And maybe even he took her out, got to Marlene and said, "You're right," and gave her back. Maybe that's what happened, but they said it didn't work, and Joel is a flawed character.
Or you know what?
Who would not lose another daughter.
You know what I mean? You know what other choice there could be, but I wouldn't want there to be this choice? With Marlene. Choose to shoot her or let her go.
And the thing about that with those fireflies and those doctors, you texted me about it, and I told you I shot everyone in the face, and they deserved it.
The first time I did it pistol style. Second time I'm like, I'm doing an assault rifle, one bullet to the face.
I think I did the revolver. And
yeah, that's what I did the first time.
One to the face, just literally aimed. And they had a doctor, she was a black woman, and I was hoping... She's got her little mask on, her surgery mask. You can't see her face. So I was hoping that it was Marlene, but I was disappointed because I'm like, if you're going to have Marlene and I'm going to shoot her, let me see as I kill her. But no, you got to kill her. Well, you didn't kill her. Joel killed her, but whatever.
You basically killed her.
Yeah, I just didn't like, people complain that there's no choices. I think it's a kind of an entitled thing. Let them tell you a story. And people are saying like, oh, but it's basically just like a movie. Yeah, movies are awesome. Who doesn't love a movie? And this is something that it's a serious story.
See, those are the best games, the ones that are like movies.
I agree, and people are saying like, I want to make choices. I want to choose what can happen. It's interactive. No, that's influential. There's a difference between influential and
Leave that
interaction.
to the Walking Dead game.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely one, and I love the Walking Dead game, but people are saying that it's not interactive if you don't make choices. Well, then video games haven't existed until 6 years ago when you were allowed to start making choices in games. Mm-hmm. Basically, interactive just means you get to be a part of the world. If you're going to make choices, that's completely influential. You don't have the right to influence this world that somebody made and somebody wanted to tell in a specific way.
I don't know about you. I've said all I can say about this game.
I'll never stop if I don't have to.
I think it's an amazing game. I think it's one of those ones where I've played it through twice already, and I can't wait to play it that third time.
And I think, we say it's a groundbreaking moment.
It's a story that never gets old.
Yeah, and don't expect the best gameplay in the world because it's not changing anything gameplay-wise. What it's doing is it's providing content and providing a story, and just it's an overall experience that we've never before seen in a video game. This medium has never had something like this before, and it raises the bar. It was amazing. You need to play it if you haven't. If you've already played it, because you should if you're listening to this, go back and play it again.
Well, that's going to do it for the Onside Kick. Kind of ending things a little differently than we usually do, talking about a video game that I know me and Mark, it kind of touched us very specially. We both wanted to give our opinions out on it. You can check out Mark's reaction video on the YouTube page. As always, anything we talked about in the podcast, just leave a comment down below. We love talking to you guys about the stuff that we talk about in the podcast and especially in our videos. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on fansidedradio.com. We have the Control Room, Fire and Ice Sports. You've got the we've got a Twin show. We got a Yankees show. Go check out the shows on Fanside Radio, and always check out Fansided Tonight with John Akron on fansided.com. And as always, have a good day, everybody.